Hello and welcome. This is the Community Meta, brought to you by Game On Aus. I am Mighty, and as in like a noun, not an adjective. And over, and over on the other side here, you might notice we've got extra people here today. So we're joined by Morg, as always, who is our community manager for Game On Oz, and we decided that it's so much hard work for us to just talk every week, so we decided to get extra people on to talk as well. Just give ourselves a little cheeky holiday on this WA Day long weekend. So we've got with us, we are joined by Weapon XVX, the fellow with the nice hand, and Chamz. Both of these guys are from Summoners Society. And I'm going to basically let them sort of explain a bit more and not put words in their mouths or blow smoke up their butt. We'll start with Chamz really quick. What is Summoners Society for anyone who's not immediately familiar with it?
So, Summoner Society is one of, if not the biggest gaming groups or communities in Australia or in Oceania in general. We started off with the League of Legends on Facebook, and our page grew to about, I believe last time I checked, 16,000 members, and our Discord has about 2,000, 3,000 people. But now we have expanded to a multitude of other games like TFT. We did Valorant for a while as well. So it's basically like a big community of gamers.
Excellent. And how long has Summoners Society been going for?
Oh, I believe it's been going since maybe 2009, 2010.
That is
So
a good
yeah,
innings.
but I can't confirm that because I haven't been there since that time.
Yeah, I want to say it was maybe about 2013, 14 because the way
Could
it
be.
started was it was the Facebook group, like you said, and then it existed in like sort of a more like primeval form, and then Keish took over, Lost Stardust, who was our CEO for a very long time, and then she's kind of responsible for it being in the form it is today, and then now we've moved on to new ownership. But yeah, it was like the Facebook group, then that grew, then Discord, and now we're kind of huge.
Yep.
Excellent. And you guys do regular content and tournaments, I understand. So before we get too far down that particular rabbit hole, let's finish the introductions there. What are your individual roles within Summoner Society? We'll start with Weapon.
Yeah, I'm the easy one because Charms. I don't even know what your role is at this point. You've done everything. Yeah, I'm actually less involved in the community side of thing. Obviously, I poke my head in to deal with the general community, but I'm actually a caster. So I'm a color caster, a League of Legends color caster. I generally cast the Summoner Society Invitational Circuit that we put on twice a year. It's a blast. We always get great attention from the public just watching on Twitch, and the teams always have a great time being involved. It's rad, and it's even though I don't really interact with the community at large, with the general community in the Discord so much, and that's on me. I do get the pleasure of dealing with like the kind of the high elo community that's come around, like with the amateur or semi-pro League of Legends scene. Just great people in there, super passionate. It's awesome.
Lovely. And Charms, what do you do?
That's a very difficult question to
You
answer
could
because
do a historical record if you want. We're here, like we got nothing
right.
but time, mate. You can...
Bring out the list.
So I joined in as a Valorant admin to the for the community side of things. I did
Mhm.
that for a while, and then I promoted to the team leader of the team I was in charge. I was in. So basically, community events. I did that for a while, and then after that, I sort of did a second in charge kind of role. After that, I mainly sort of went into the broadcast side of things. So I was second in charge of the broadcast team for a while, and now I am doing something that's sort of secluded from everyone else. I'm doing content
Ooh.
creation,
Yep.
but that's something I sort of do by myself at the moment. So yeah.
So when you say they have a broadcast team, that implies that there are sort of like a Hydra. There's multiple heads to
Oh
SumSoc
yeah,
here. uh,
definitely.
so is there a short list of which teams sort of definitely exist? Are there any super secret ones that you can't tell us about? Uh,
We have, let me just pull up
Yeah, I'm
our
looking at the Discord
list.
now.
We have, I believe, we have about 7 teams. The broadcast team, the publishing team that does most of the content stuff. We have the Discord moderation team. We have the community events team. So those are the main teams, but then there are some niche, smaller groups alongside those teams to sort of iron out everything else as well.
Mhm. So, if it's divided into teams and the like, how is it? Are they still sort of unified under the same thing, or do you sometimes have like the teams will operate relatively independently and mostly just cross over when they need to? What's that relationship in between the teams sort of like?
So there are some teams that collaborate a lot, especially our community events team and a broadcast team. They work cooperatively, but there are also some teams like the Discord moderation team and the Facebook team who work independently on their stuff. But everyone's always on the same page because of how we usually run things.
Okay, that's and what sort of what's an example of a project that Summoner Society would work on, and how would the teams like interlock to make that happen? Like which teams would be involved in which capacity?
So I guess the best example I could bring out is Summoners Invitational Circuit, which is our League of Legends amateur League of Legends tournament, which is
Mhm.
sort of our biggest and most involved project at the moment. So for that, it starts off with the community events team. They're basically in charge of the whole thing. So the leader of that team event is basically in charge of SICK. Then it goes sort of off into, then they start working with the broadcast team to make sure that all the content side of the tournament is settled. And then we obviously get the Discord moderation team and the social media team involved to make sure all the social media posts and the Discord is updated. This also goes to the Facebook team, who also regularly updates everything on the Facebook page and the Facebook group. And yeah, that's sort of how it will. And of course, the publishing team, they'll work on a lot of things like graphics, articles, newsletters, things like that. Like I have to mention them, they do a lot of work. So yeah, that's sort of, I guess that's probably the best example where we do a lot of work coexisting cooperatively.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a bit of like a, sorry to jump in, but there's a bit of like a um people don't really understand when we talk to them about SumSoc, especially like the players and like the teams involved don't really understand that all these decisions get made like by a committee and all these things, all these people work behind the scenes. It's one of the biggest things we have to deal with, where like a team will disagree with a decision that gets made by like one of the tournament organizers, and they'll come to like a caster and complain, and we're like, dude, like I don't even know the person who made that decision. Like I know them, but like I have to send you to like a different channel. And like one of the biggest struggles with this is like that community is there, but it's like it's kind of tucked behind the curtain a little bit.
And so that's an example where you've got so for like you guys know how it all works because you're in the system, but you then have to explain how it works to the people who your for want of a better word, your customers or your
Yeah, they are.
and is that by design that it's that sort of thing? Like the it sounds like it's very modular in that sort of sense, and so at least everybody knows where you have to send someone. Is that correct?
Yeah.
So, yeah,
Because this wasn't always the case. Obviously, we went through a bit of a long learning process to make sure everything is streamlined. Before when we weren't exactly on the same page, these occurrence incidents would happen where decisions might get made individually, not everyone's updated, and it creates a lot of problems. So now we've made the system, we've like hard coded the system to make sure that if, for example, if a player goes to a caster, the caster will tell them, no, I can't help you. You have to go to one of the admins or the person in charge of it to make sure everything is all right, because so we don't have any problems down the line.
Yeah. So is it likely that, like to a casual observer, SumSoc is like the team is smaller than it actually is by a very large magnitude?
yeah,
Yep.
massively.
Yeah. So just how large is the team? Just out of curiosity.
Ooh, I mean, we could open up the member list on the channel, on the server rather. How do we find
Hmm.
that? User management members. So currently the team is 65 strong across all of those
65
teams.
individual people,
Yes.
Yep.
and that's including all of the sub teams that you guys have described.
Yeah, that's
Yep.
in fact no.
Yep.
I'm not looking at. Yeah, okay. So I'm looking at the SumSoc general team channel. So yeah, that would be 65. You'd probably say about like say 10 to 15 of those may be inactive at any given time, or kind of guests on the server. But yeah, 50 to 60, pretty reasonable number.
Yep.
And presumably, seeing as it's like a grassroots organization, a lot of that is in voluntary capacity. No one's sort of employed by SumSoc.
We are all volunteer-based people. Yes.
Lovely. So how many sort of man hours in a week would you guys say that the team puts in over the course of, for example, your Summoners Invitational circuit?
I mean, how many man hours have you put in over a week, Charms? Oh God.
Multiply that
So-
by.
It depends on the role I was in. If I was in charge when I was in charge of SIC, that was last year. I think I would put in about 20 to 30 hours a week. That's including watching all the matches at real time, and then in dealing with any problems outside games, and then making new stuff happen and making sure everyone's updated in meetings. So I would say about 20 to 30 hours.
A week.
I think I spent. Yeah.
Was it-
Which
there
is
ever-
and
So-
oh, you go more.
Oh, was there ever a point you sort of felt burnt out?
Yeah, that was sometimes, especially after sick, it's pretty tough.
Yeah, it's
We-
like when you finish a big project and you're like, now what do I do with my life? Yeah, because you haven't had time to think about it.
Yeah,
Is
there's
it- is-
definitely a big like turnover in. Sorry, Morg. But
No.
there's a big turnover in the team just because people. It is volunteer, so one of the sort of downsides is that we do struggle a little bit with continuity where people will get burnt out, they'll move on, someone else comes in, and we kind of have to get that new person up to speed. That's just the reality of these communities sometimes.
Is
Uh,
there ever any thought put into a process in sort of safeguarding from people getting burnt out? Because that, as you understand, leads to a lot of knowledge loss within the organization.
Definitely, like the obvious answer is just you have more people, and that's what Charms was talking about, where that's really improved over the years, where we have had more systems in place, more ways to communicate. One of the biggest issues we've always had with SumSoc over the years is like work being concentrated onto one person, because one person can do the work, so it was easier for them to just do it rather than give it to the people who were meant to be doing the work. And a lot of the work over the years has just been making it possible for us to communicate between teams, and in theory hand off work. It still happens from time to time, and unfortunately it's is what it is, just with people not necessarily being paid to do the work. But we try and obviously moderate it as best we can and make sure that things do flow nicely.
So to add on to that, to make sure that people aren't really burned out or they get to that point, we obviously have a policy of like don't keep things to yourself if things do get hard, because how like burning out usually happens to the leaders of the teams because they do a bulk of the work. So for that exact reason, we have a deputy team leader always there as well, just in case if they get burnt out, we quickly do the swap and things smooth. But again, we always tell them if you do feel burnt out, if there's too much work, you have to let us know so we can come up with a way to make things better. So that's sort of how we deal with it.
Are there any specific examples you have of that system affecting a change that's definitely benefited over time?
I actually wanted to, kind of call out. So over the last season, we had a new member of the team join, Tortuous Cub, or Cub, I guess we called her. She's actually really cool lass. She actually works in film, so she brought a lot of that experience to the broadcast team, and she worked alongside Chex, who was our broadcast team leader, and that was like a really big point of contention because I was at one point I was also a deputy team leader under Chex, and a lot of what we found was like it just wasn't working when Chex was doing it by herself, and then that was at the time when I wasn't a team leader, and then we brought in Tort. She's been taking over a lot of like splitting that duties where it's like she's doing the run sheets, and that's sort of like admin work and allowing Chex to kind of just direct traffic her way and like do the overview stuff, and that's been really helpful.
Excellent.
Yeah, definitely.
And does any of the what sort of sources come? Sorry, eventually I'll get my words right. Where is there a general trend as to where those ideas come from in general? Like, do you ever get them from like someone will say an idea that might be in a different team that actually turns out to be something that really helps another team?
So we do have. I haven't been a team leader for a while, so I'm not too sure how it works now. But when I was a team leader, we had 2 meetings a week. Well, the team leaders from all the teams we gather together, and in those meetings we usually talk about things like that, of ideas we heard or we have, and we just bounce it off each other and see if it works and if something sticks. But that's how it usually works. But I guess ideas and concept development and ideation in general is something we really do a lot. So yeah.
Yeah, so like to tack onto that, a lot of Lost Stardust and her partner kind of came from a bit more of like like worked in games. I probably shouldn't really call out where exactly they work to dox them, but basically they brought a lot of the ideas of like that corporate idea of like siloing and stuff. So a lot of the team leader meetings were actually really like structured in a way that was like, let's actually silo and let's like put ideas in the pool, and then we'll figure out like what the value versus the value to effort ratio is on that, and like let's actually figure out what's achievable with the resources we have. So like I'm not sure how much of that is in place now, because obviously I'm not a team leader as well, but I know a lot of it was moving in that direction of like actually kind of bringing in some of the good ideas from the corporate world and figuring out how to make it work with what we have.
So, on that note, sorry, my throat's getting phlegmy. On that note, are there any skills that you guys have picked up from SumSoc that have then benefited you outside of SumSoc in your wider life? Assuming that, of course, there is a life outside of SumSoc.
Where would Charms be in relation to me when we do this? When like, because
I'm like
Charms
above you.
above Charms. This guy. Okay, like let me tell you a story, right? Charms, I love you with all of my heart, and you know it. When you first joined, you had some issues, and then I watched you grow into like an absolute powerhouse of an admin. Like everything you did was just gold from like after like your first like few months, and like it was just so like heartwarming to see you like just improve over like the years here at SumSoc, and you've been at SumSoc. It's awesome. So like there is that like 100%.
Yeah, because I joined SumSoc when I was 17. And then in those 2 years, 3 years almost now, jeez, time flies. Oh my God. I did pick up a lot of things that have really helped me. I mean, the path I'm currently on, going into design and things like that, is because I've worked in SumSoc and I was into that kind of thing. I was originally in IT, and then now I'm in studying design because of my work with SumSoc. And obviously things like, time management, team management, people management, a lot of those soft skills are really picked up when you're involved in something of this capacity. So I owe a lot of things to SumSoc, really.
Yeah, and like same here. Like obviously, SumSoc has helped me grow as a caster, which is giving me now paid work. Rest recently cast for the crew with me / I think they share some management with Kanga. I could be wrong about that. Apologies to the with me folks if I'm getting that wrong. But like, the paid gigs are coming in from the time that I spent at SumSoc improving and getting good at what I do. Theoretically good. I'm okay.
That note, is that a regular movement that occurs from people who come through SumSoc? They'll join SumSoc in whatever capacity it might be it like a player or a caster or a designer or what have you, and then that experience directly leads them onto more professional opportunities later down the line.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Like Arcane, Mr. Arcane, who came through our team. We obviously can't claim all of his success because he's He's an amazing kid, and he's done a lot for different orgs over the years. But he is currently the main graphic designer for Mammoth right now, doing all of their videos and all their graphics and stuff. And he pops his head up around all over the place. He's amazing. I only know him as Arcane. I don't know his name, and I'm not going to dox the guy, but like, it's really funny that I only know him as Arcane. I wish I could give him a shout out. I'm pretty sure it's like Arcane Designs on Twitter or something, right? I'll say, but
I
like,
believe so.
yeah, if you go to Mammoth's Mammoth Esports Twitter, you'll see that he's like tagged in all of their stuff. He's incredible, and like, who else we got? Like, I think Chaos, also one of our designers, got hired recently for an esports job just through like references and work through SumSoc. And obviously, there's all our casters, Formal, Midnight, Gex as well, like all successful in their own right. But working at SumSoc it's practice. It all helps, right?
Definitely.
Also lead to sorry, I'll rephrase the question in my head and then I'll ask you. So that sort of implies then that SumSoc fits in somewhere in the broader gaming landscape as like a it's where if I go, oh, I need someone talented, I will look at SumSoc to see if they're there. Is that right? So it's like that sort of proving ground, if that makes sense. It's like the state AFL compared to the regular AFL, right? For any Australians watching this Australian podcast, you might get that reference.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, like that basically has been kind of the goal of at least the broadcast team for the past few years. Because right now, we love them, we adore them, but a lot of the casting in OCE is done by about 4 people. Rusty, Skimmy, Juves has moved over to North America on like the League of Legends side. Then you got Elfish, who does like everything else. And then there's Mac, who's like the go-to host, and a couple of other guys who do like odd things here and there. So there's like definitely spaces that could be filled, and part of the goal of the broadcast team is to like give people opportunities to be casters and get paid for it. And then at the same time, the SICK Invitational SumSoc Invitational Circuit is actually designed for the rank bracket here is like diamond and above, and most of the time we're looking at these players who are actually either ex-pros or semi-pros who have competed in like the B leagues, for like the official B leagues for Riot, and we're looking to give them opportunities to get better. So even on like the community side, it's all about growth from like the whole sick thing. And then obviously we touched on the rest of the teams, like all the graphic designers who've moved through and picked up jobs.
So you'd really say that SumSoc is one of the major pathways within sort of the Australian esports scene, which
Definitely.
Which pathways is always a topic that is actively talked about within the scene. Everyone's looking for what does that pathway look like. I know in America, I believe that sort of moving towards the intervarsity scene at the moment, where Australia we sort of have SumSoc for Riot. I guess to phrase a question from this statement, how do people find you in the main way? Like if I was just starting out in League of Legends and I wanted to get involved, where would I go to sort of find out where SumSoc is? Or find out about SumSoc?
I mean, I guess like a lot of the early kind of spread of SumSoc was word of mouth. We are kind of getting to a point where, at least when I was like in the team leaders meetings and things like that, it was really kind of a question of like, how do we get to the Zoomers? Because they're on TikTok. So I think we were like trying to do more TikTok stuff. We're certainly having people join pretty regularly and new players coming in. I can only really speak to like the esports side, where like a lot of it's actually coming from the teams. So people are being like on the esports side, you've got these like amateur clubs, right? So we've got like say like MCOM, Weekend Warriors, Avalanche is a new one, where they're actually like actively scouting new players. So you'll get this like 16-year-old challenger wonder kid like Hooper. And they'll get scouted into a team, and then they kind of get brought into the community because they joined this team and they competed in a tournament. and then like those teams are also doing recruiting for like their Iron to Plat teams, so they compete in like other tournaments as well, and they join the community that way. So like on the esports side, that's kind of how it works. I don't know if you have any insight on like the rest of it, Charms, because I know it's kind of been a struggle recently.
No, I agree. I think because admittedly we do have a bit of an older fan base because honestly I will probably go on a bit of a tangent here. Our original goal as community gaming, that idea and that concept is slowly fading away because of the rise of esports and because of things like of the regional tournaments, which is a good thing. I totally agree with that. But what that did was it severely hindered our numbers in actual community-based events, and all of our audience sort of went to our esports. So we sort of changed focus now into putting our effort on esports and of that caliber. But in terms of finding us, we are pretty active. We try to be active in almost all of these scenes, even in the high school gaming scene. We help out with some tournaments. We provide casters. We help out with inter-club, inter-organization tournaments. We recently did. We helped out with MCOM with one of their tournaments, and of course, SICK is probably our biggest exposure point. A lot of people just join through SICK, and of course through our socials is usually how we find people. But like Weapon mentioned, it does a lot of through word of mouth as well. I joined through word of mouth because my friend was in it, and I joined because my friend was in it. Things like that.
Say that most of the members of SumSoc, is it more likely that they're sort of active community members, be they like players, designers, casters, that sort of stuff, versus like, oh, I'm a casual esports enjoyer and I'm going to join SumSoc because they have esports there? Like, it's less likely to be just viewers.
I mean, like I said, I can kind of really, sorry, Charms. I'll just quickly say like I can't really touch on like the general community. It's almost like Charms kind of mentioned. There's these two sides to SumSoc, which really kind of they don't really like mesh together. Where there's this like general community of kind of casual players and casual gamers who want to just like chat and can we swear on this show?
Yeah.
One.
Shit. So they just want to shit post, and like, I'm not gonna say the F word, oh good, but like, they just want to shit post, they just want to like have a good time, and then there's this kind of like this other side where there's players who like maybe have aspirations to go pro, and they engage with the community that way. So, like finding the ways to capture both sides of that, always a bit of a struggle. But yeah, Charms.
So on that, I think in terms of community, like I mentioned, even though things have been not too well in terms of numbers for the community side, we do keep trying to push for more people in our community and not just our esports viewers. But we do have quite a number of people coming in just to talk about League of Legends, talk about Arcane and things like that. It doesn't have to be limited to League of Legends. It could be, we really have opened our Discord server into a lot of different things. We have a platform where people can find artists if they want to do a commission and things like that. So it's a really open community, and I still think that the even though I mentioned that it's sort of depleting, we still have a pretty good presence, and especially with the things we do, I think we're able to hold those people in that community and not lose them.
Like we say it's sort of depleting. It like I don't poke my head into the community Discord too often, but I will say it's like there's never nothing happening there. Like it's
True.
not. Don't get us wrong. Like there's always there's always discussion. There's always people talking. Like every time I open the thing up, there's someone talking today. There's some sort of conversation happening. So like the community is there. I admittedly just don't engage with it as much as I should. So don't really know exactly what happens there, but our admins are always busy and people are always in there talking about something.
Yep.
You mentioned a little bit there, talking about how you've got like disparate groups within it. So on a there's another popular podcast called the Community Meta that actually talked about having like different groups within your community, specifically like what you would consider like high skill versus low skill, or engagement, or like your casual versus your hardcore sort of thing. And is it safe to say that that's a similar sort of thing that you guys are experiencing, or is it more like, even if you are, it's I presume it's not like it's not like West Side Story where everyone's out to have a dance fight or anything like that. People just kind of do their everybody's kind of staying in their lane. Is that a fair thing to say?
Yeah, I'd say that's the case. So the individual communities inside our Discord and our broader community, they're not exactly just they're not divided or anything like that, but it is mostly we don't have a lot of the I'd say the average person in our community would probably be not someone who plays League of Legends very seriously, but they like to get in a game or two with their friends and things like that. So that is also sort of our target audience in terms of community, because that's sort of what we cater to, because we went away from the serious competition tournament for our community, and we sort of focus that for esports. But for the community, we are now focusing on more fun-based stuff. Like our Discord has a small faction tournament with the factions in League of Legends, which is something that a lot of people like. We have a lot of different small mini games and things like that, to bring in the less serious players into our community.
Yeah, and like another thing we've actually seen really take off was TFT, so Teamfight Tactics, for those of you playing at home. It's a much more like casual game, or at least it's not casual, like someone's going to get really mad at me for saying that, but it's a game where like the ability to pick it up and play, because it's just you don't need a team, and you can kind of like, you can sort of feel your way through the game early on. That's been really, really good from what I've seen of like bringing in new members. We had I want to say we still have a regular TFT night. Are we still doing that, Chance? Like Tuesdays?
I believe so, yes.
Yeah, cool. So like that was blowing up. Like that was huge. We were getting like 20, 30 people like each time pretty consistently. It ended up being this like mini tournament thing, and now that, as I understand it, is actually being expanded out into like an actual, like basically a version of SICK that's for TFT. So like, yeah, that's cool. I would say just like watch this space for whenever that happens.
Yep.
Super good. Oh, sorry, have I interrupted you, Chums?
No.
Okay, lovely. So I'm going to dial this down a little bit and get a bit more laser focused, make it a little bit more personal. I hope you guys are ready for some intense grilling. And I'll ask each of you. You can answer in whichever order that you like. But what's been the most rewarding part of being in SumSoc for each of you? We'll start with Weapon.
I mean, just participating in SICK as a caster has been awesome. I've done like a few finals and they've been really great. And like over the past sort of year, I really have felt like I've put in more work as a caster. And it's kind of it's all making this all about me. But like, yeah, okay, that's fair. But like, dude, let me tell you, like SICK has SICK has been the longest running amateur or semi-pro tournament. There's cash prizes now, I guess we can call it that. And we even got the teams to buy in this season. So there was a $50 sign-up fee, which contributed to the prize pool. So like we're definitely building it up there. But like, because it's been running for so long, and because we have these amazing casters on deck, like Formal is the best caster in the Southern Hemisphere, potentially one of the best in the world. Like, and we've got like Midnight, who's incredible, and like Gex, like everyone. I work with Nightstar, who's one of the PCS, like the official PCS casters. All this like mountain of talent, people I haven't mentioned who are going to get mad at me now. And like we just the production is great. And like one thing, as like me personally, am trying to improve over the last year, I've noticed is that like when I join a server now, like I'll join like recently did the QUT esports broadcast, like filling in for Baz and or filling in for Nightstar alongside Baz. But when I join that server, one of the coaches, one of the teams was like, "Damn, like, they're bringing out the big guns." Like, and I see this consistently where everyone's like, "Man, SumSoc caster up in this? Like, what is this? This is wild." And like, sometimes it's personally like me, which is really good, but most of the time it feels like the being a part of SumSoc as a caster carries this like mystique, and it's like really cool. It's like it's so rewarding, like as someone who's worked on the team as like a team leader, try and like build this up and make it into something. And also like personally as a caster, seeing that like that effort rewarded.
And it's good to have it all come back to you after all that effort. You know, like
Yeah.
it's you get out what you put in.
Exactly.
What about you, Chams? What's the most rewarding part of being in SumSoc for you?
I think personally, something I really enjoyed seeing was when a player or a team who played for SICK gets picked up by one of the bigger orgs to play in LCO. Like, I don't know, it just gives me a feeling of I was there. I was there when he was doing the muddy work, and now he's all the way up there. It's crazy. It's like it's
Common
an
occurrence?
unbelievable feeling. Yeah, I think
70%, 70%.
70, something
Yeah.
like that. It's a pretty big percentage of people who pass through SICK gets picked up by LCO. And yeah, it's one of the best feelings in the world, I'm not gonna lie.
That I helped that guy get up there. You know.
Yeah, and
Lovely.
obviously like the same thing with our casters as well. You know, we actually recently started a thing called the Forge, which was our because SICK was always kind of a thing where we'd only really approach like the best of the best, and that was like rightly seen as like a bit of an elitist mindset by some people. But we just wanted like we wanted the cream of the crop. We wanted people who were like really really good. We didn't have to like teach them or train them, bring them in, and that kind of changed about a year ago where we started this thing called the Forge, where we brought in new people who either never cast before or they had like very minimal casting experience, and we wanted to like give these people like live feedback and VOD reviews and things like that, and, like train them up. And it's been a bit of a struggle like getting off the ground. We're like we basically like started the Forge, then SICK happened, and then there was like no bandwidth to run other events. But like I know the SVT team leadership are trying to like work on that and make that happen a bit more. But like that's another thing we're trying to do, where we want to like get these people, and then we can have like the other type of feeling where it's like, man, we saw like I saw Pike when he was casting for SumSoc, and now he's like hosting Worlds or like casting at Worlds. Like what a great feeling. Pike is a really good caster, by the way. Papa Pike, check him out.
So I guess you can see that your pathways are working when you're seeing that sort of end of the success pipeline, if you'll put it. It's actually really great to hear that there's effort being put into develop the people at sort of starting out in the casting scene, and the fact that whilst it's taking up a lot of your bandwidth now, is only going to increase the bandwidth down the line to later do more stuff.
Exactly, yeah. And yeah, seeing those people move on, get paid gigs, all that stuff, it's super cool. Love to see. I love seeing my friends succeed. So that's what we all
Yep.
want to see.
So I've got another sort of deep personal question to drop on you guys. I'm sorry. What has been the most challenging part of being in SumSoc for you guys? We'll start with Chams this time.
I think dealing with SICK was probably one of the lowest moments of my career at SumSoc, because I love the community in SICK, but if I'm being completely honest, there have been numerous times where that hasn't been the case, and when that happens, it happens at the most extreme level of discomfort. So yeah, that's probably my worst experience at SumSoc, is probably dealing with the bad side of SICK.
What Charms is like dancing around is there's some really toxic elements in the community just because gamers, unfortunately. And there's some teams out there who are like, it feels like they're purposely difficult. It maybe they're not from their point of view, they're just having fun, but like it's tough to deal with as an admin. So we've had to be a lot more like strict over the years. And there's actually a team recently who, unfortunately, despite the fact that they were like basically winning the tournament every single time we did it, I think they were like 4 wins deep, had to be like removed from the competition because they were just consistently toxic. I think there's a I think we may be looking to bring them back at some point after they've like served their term and the players have been allowed to play in like other teams. But like that exact group of players is no longer allowed to play in SICK, unfortunately.
How many times has SICK been run?
Oof.
A
It
lot?
actually started as yeah, like a lot. So it's actually started as so before SICK even there was a thing called the Oceanic Open Ladder, which was actually a Riot run event which SumSoc sort of helped with, as I understand it, and that was before my time. And then that kind of died. And the Oceanic Open Ladder was also a bit of a feeder into the what was the OCS at the time, the Oceanic Challenger Series, which was the B League to the Pro League at the time. And then after that kind of died out, Riot reached out to a bunch of the amateur communities about running a tournament called OCAL, the Oceanic Community Amateur League. And that was shared between some of the top community groups at the time, SumSoc being the one that was kind of put in charge, more or less. And like we ran the qualifying rounds across different organizations' broadcasts, and then SumSoc was officially put in charge of like the final sort of group stages into the playoffs. And then that from there, I think it ran like once, maybe twice, and then it became officially the SumSoc Invitational Circuit, and that's been running for like 3-4 years at this point. Like it's, but that's like that. What I just described covers the span of like I don't know, 6 years maybe at this point. It's been a while.
Yeah, of course.
And it happens. It happens twice in a year as well.
I see it. Yeah, 2 splits.
Yeah. So yeah, quite a lot of times. I guess the follow-up question then, if we're dialing back to sort of the toxic teams that are coming through, is those more harsher policies that you referred to earlier came in? Have you sort of been seeing less and less sort of people getting, I guess, banned for a period of time from SICK?
I mean, there's really only been a couple of like niche cases where we've had to like bring the hammer down. That was like the one team we're talking about is pretty much the one time we've had to do it. There's a couple of teams that toe the line, but I think they've been able to be sort of talked to and reasoned with. Like I don't really know what else is really happening behind the scenes, but my understanding is like most things are pretty good.
Does that sort of stuff come about as like people go, oh, it's only a community league, it doesn't matter, you know, like what have you? Do you think that sort of behavior would just magically not exist at the higher level, or is it sort of, do you sort of feel like if you guys don't stamp it out, it'll bleed upwards into the wider scene?
So I think it's what you mentioned, where if you don't stamp it out here, it'll grow, because a lot of people who are in behind the scenes of SumSoc have been through some of the worst experience in Oceanic gaming. So they know they don't want that behavior to spread around, especially to the upper echelon, or if I say even more importantly, into the lower tier scene. So that's why we want to stamp it out even within the community, be it community, even staff teams, or even in SICK, we don't really tolerate that sort of toxic behavior, inappropriate behavior. But it mostly gets implemented in the esports league, because that's where we really interact with a lot of people of that caliber. But yeah, we don't want that to bleed anywhere else. It has
Do we
to
talk
stop
about
here.
Muday?
Oh no. Oh god.
Anyone ran a Muday bot server before?
So Mudebot.
Are you going there?
Yeah, it's an interesting story.
Yeah, why not?
It's a Discord minigame bot where you can roll. If you're familiar with the concept of gacha, where it's like a lottery basically, where you roll a certain amount of characters. In this scenario, it was anime waifus and husbandos. So we initially implemented it thinking, oh, we're gonna get some good engagement here, it's gonna be fun, but then it got extremely competitive. It was more competitive than like challenge level League of Legends games, right? People were like emotionally manipulating other people into giving like their waifus and their husbandos. It got really messy. I've been a part of like Mudebot service before, but it was crazy to see like
Wild.
normal like adults, I'm saying people with jobs and sometimes even families just act in this manner. We were like, what is going on? So we had to really sort of put the hammer down there. I think I've never had to like develop so many rules so many times for one thing in my life before that. Not even for sick. It was crazy.
Like I remember like we were both team leaders at this time. This is when Charms was like being sort of developed to be like the second in charge of SumSoc, and he like grew into that role really well. And like, but this is like when he was kind of coming up, and we were both in the team leader sort of role under Lost Stardust, and like I remember like 40%, 60% of our team leader meetings would be about this damn bot. And like, I'm sitting there like, I think it was like me and I think I was like co-team leader. So the other person who was doing SPT would be sitting there, would be like, why are we talking about this for so like it's an hour-long meeting and we're talking about this goddamn bot? Just ban these kids and be done with it. It was incredible.
It was
So now we have
certainly
rules.
interesting. Yeah.
Like because it's still there, right? Like if I open up the server, the Mood bot's still there. It's still there. So there's a success story for you. We managed to curb the toxicity around Mood bot apparently, and
It
it's
was
still the same
crazy.
people. It's still the same people. Like White Necko's still making rolls.
So
We talked about it occasionally on the podcast here. Are there any other suspiciously specific rules that exist?
Oh,
Like
Chance.
you know how there's rules in a community. Like you'll go to a community, you look at their list of rules, and you'll be like, I wonder what happened to make this specific rule be a rule.
I'm just looking at the rules and
Rules like there has to be some really like no placeholders and stuff. I don't know.
so I will talk about the Mudebot rules because I think that's where we sort of really honed it down. Originally, when I was doing it, I had about 12, 14 rules, and those rules now have been condensed into 6. And under toxic behavior, there are some specific examples of toxic behavior, and it includes things like flaming and gaslighting and insulting and things like that. And well, I'm not joking. As I said, people were actually emotionally and mentally manipulating others to get their character for themselves. It was crazy. Like, so that I think that's one of the prime examples of like a very specific weird rule that has to be there.
Yeah, I think like everything else is pretty straightforward, right? Like on the sick side, like the esports side, it was pretty much just like we had to crack down on teams trying to use some like real jank-ass logos over the years. Yeah, we won't call out which teams have done that. And yeah, that was interesting. But like other
Yeah.
than that, it's really just the Mood bot that was like this wild few months in SumSoc history.
It was crazy.
Yeah.
All right. So I'll wind it back a little bit. So Weapon, what was the most challenging part of being in SumSoc for yourself?
Yeah,
I say was. I say was. I presume you still are. So it can be present
Oh,
tense
of course,
as well.
yeah.
You know.
Yeah, no, I mean things are actually really good now. Like Chums and I talked a lot about like the whole sort of burnout over the years and like the systems not being there for the teams to really work together. But like and I was definitely a team leader during like the worst part of that. So like there was a time when I just had a lot of personal stuff going on, but then also like I was a team leader at SumSoc and like I was just horrifically burnt out and like it felt like there wasn't like like it felt like there wasn't a way for me to like alleviate that stress or like offload my workload to someone else or like just a way to deal with that. And I felt like really obligated to the community, which is kind of I guess the dark side of these like volunteer groups where like you're not getting paid to do it, but you kind of feel like you have this obligation. And so much work has been done to kind of rectify that, but unfortunately, like at the time, there was there was a time where I was like losing sleep. I was like working basically overnight trying to get like sick stuff done and off the ground. And Charms could probably attest to this as well. As like there were some dark ages, and we definitely have a little bit less of that these days. Chex will definitely tell you that she has her fair share of she had her fair share of stress over the last season, but like definitely better than it used to be.
I agree.
And so just to bring the mood up again,
Yeah.
what has been the most fun part of being in SumSoc for you? So just remembering you guys already answered most rewarding.
Yep.
You can't use that answer again. The most fun bit, the bit that gives you personally the most dopamine. We'll start with Weapon.
I mean, it's every final that I've been a part of. Casting finals. Casting's what I do. It's what I love. Like, even the last one I think was a 3-0. It was who was it? Weekend Warriors finally beating Exile. Shout outs to Exile, by the way. That team. This is a story. Oh my god, a team that was like literally last place like 3 seasons in a row suddenly just hulked up and got second place in like one of those competitive fields we've had. Awesome. But yeah, like, man, just finals, just casting SumSoc finals is like the broad answer. It's always a joy.
About Chams, what's your super high feel good thing that keeps you coming back to SumSoc?
I think for me personally, it's something I guess a bit different. It's when new people join, especially the staff team, and this was especially when I was a team lead and I would have more people under me. I would always love working with the newer people and then teaching them the ropes and things like that. I always found it that extremely rewarding, and it felt like I was contributing to something greater than myself. So I really liked it.
We also have one thing that kind of sparks joy as well is like we have this like we have a really active like staff Discord server that's separate to the main one, and like when I say I don't spend enough time in the community ones because I'm usually looking at this one because that's where we coordinate all our broadcast efforts. But like the discussion there's always really good. We also had this like mental health channel which we've had running for a couple of years where like people just kind of post stuff that's like worrying them, and like even though like I don't think I don't think any of our team really know each other in real life, and there's probably people on the team that like haven't really like spoken one on one, but like there's always like people willing to like discuss and give advice and like help each other out when they're feeling down. Like basically everyone on the team I think has made a post in here, and like it's really cool having like this behind the scenes like community of like people like lifting each other up and helping each other through rough stuff. Like and even like like kind of giving each other congratulations for cool stuff that happens. Like we just had a team member who managed to like get their first job. Like I assume that they're quite young, but like they were like talking on the server about how they were going for a job interview, really nervous, and then they got the job, and everyone was like, hell yeah, yeah, like go dude, like that's awesome, love that.
You've mentioned a little bit talking about like new people coming in to the community and people sort of like graduating out as well. How much would you say of the community now is the same group of people when it got started?
It's like massively different, right? Like I think it's probably easier to count the people who are there from the start. Because Charms, like I was there before Charms, and Charms feels like he's like been there forever now. But like man, so we recently changed like leadership ownership, where Lost Stardust, Kesh has moved on to very cool opportunities in gaming. There's probably about maybe 4 people out of like that 50 or so that we mentioned who are like who are there from the start. It'd be less than 10, 20 maybe. It's like it's a lot. I don't know, Champs. Like, what do you reckon?
Yeah, because like right after I joined, a lot of people sort of like Weapon mentioned, they sort of graduated and went to bigger things. So a lot of the people that I started off with are not there anymore, which is I don't know how to feel about that. It feels sort of surreal because a lot of my friends who were then there in my team and stuff like that aren't there anymore. And we have a lot of new people, which I also love.
Because we actually like when I got the invite to be on this podcast, I literally made the post being like, you know, who's the longest serving and suffering member of SumSoc, and like who did we actually end up figuring out it was, Champs? Because I don't
believe
know.
it was
Jess maybe.
no, it's either Ayla or I think it's Sakrala. I
Yeah.
think it's
Okay.
Kylie. I'm pretty
So
sure
like,
it's Kylie.
so for context, that's two of our team leaders, art team leaders, publishing.
Yeah.
I they were always just like they were always just Scarlett and Sakrala, so like just voices in team leader meetings, very even tempered and smart voices, but like because we
Yep.
talked about so much in those meetings, I was like never quite sure what they did.
Yep. So it's probably them. They've been
Yeah.
here. I think Sakrala has been here with Keish. So I think obviously Lost Stardust has probably been the oldest member beginning of the original community up until this year, the whole way through, which is it's amazing. So yeah.
So that
Yeah,
probably puts like those members around about like 6-7 years maybe.
Yep.
that's dedication.
Yeah.
Yep.
So, a little bit on that note, then, is there any sort of discussion?
Your mic's not picking up.
Yeah, can't hear your mic, buddy.
No. All right, hello words. On that note, then, is there any sort of deliberate discussion within the community related to sort of like recruitment and retaining of people, or are you sort of like lucky enough that you've hit this critical mass where it sort of happens naturally over time?
So we do a lot of driving towards getting more staff members through our social media. We have a pretty open sign up process, and we have an interview afterwards if we feel like they are relevant to our staff community. So we do. I think we are lucky enough to keep getting new people in through our various media.
Yeah, I'm looking on the server now. There's actually at the top under information, there is staff applications channel where there's application forms for the events team, the mods team, which would be for Discord, Facebook, whatever takes your fancy there. The content team, which is obviously for artists, video editors, all that sort of stuff. If you love League of Legends, hit up any of those. And of course, if you want to learn how to cast, there is the Forge. So the way to do that would be to like anyone listening, watching would be like hit up one of our social medias, so like our Instagram or our Twitter. You'll find links to the Discord where you can find these application forms, and then you can obviously be a part of the Discord, which is great. It's fun, and you can roll for husbandos or waifus, and please don't be toxic about it, because Chance will have to write more rules.
Don't make me write more rules.
So, sorry, I've almost worked my way through most of the questions that I've got for you. I know, right? 7 years later.
Carry on.
You mentioned briefly about you've got prize money involved with some of the tournaments. So a little bit more along that train of thought is the community monetized in any way? And if so, what does the money get spent on?
So I know that like the prize money for the tournaments at the moment is a bit of a closed loop. It's just like teams pay to compete, and then a portion of that prize money goes back into the prize pool. I think some of it goes into like we use it to make merch, which we try to use to generate profit. But like a lot of the kind of over the years, it's been like, how do we monetize this thing? Can we monetize this thing? And searching for sponsors and things like that. So lots of like sponsor decks have gone out, and we're always looking, but I don't know what's happening there like now in terms of like looking for sponsors. I'm pretty sure we're still looking for sponsors for the stream because it's like it's the amateur League of Legends broadcast. So yeah, we should be able to find people to jump on it. So hopefully we get on that soon. What do you reckon, Charles?
I agree. So how we've raised money before is we've it's obviously all donations most of the time. We do get some money
There's
from
Patreon.
our now there's a
Yes.
Patreon. Yes. We recently started the Patreon, which is one of the more direct ways you can support SumSoc. But originally it was through donations from staff and community members alike. So we just, again, not the most sustainable model to do prize tournaments, but it works. And that's how we're sort of staying afloat in that area. But because we are a voluntary-based organization, we don't really need a lot of I guess a lot of monetary income, but it is also really good because the more money we get, the more money we can spend on community and events and tournaments and things like that.
Is there any benefits that you get for donating?
So the Patreon, yes, I think they've just set it up. Let me just have a quick look see. The Patreon of course has a lot of we have 3 different tiers. I think the first tier, which is $3, it gives you access to our digital magazine, which used to be the amount of work they put into this magazine. It's
Really
crazy.
cool.
It's actually like it's something you would find like in the caliber of like Vogue or something like that. It's really good. And I think the next year you get some fun stuff with TFT. I think you get access to a TFT skin and egg draw, and you get some VIP access to some of our community. And the last tier, which is $27, it gives you access to signed artwork. And let me tell you, our artwork is great. Like,
Yeah, our
yeah,
art is incredible,
I can confidently say our art team is probably the best art team in Ocean in esports, guaranteed. And interestingly enough, when you get the last tier of Patreon, you get free entry to our $500 TFT tournament, which is starting soon, this month, I believe. So yeah, that's sort of the incentives in terms of Patreon. But sometimes I think we once did some giveaways for people who donated some Riot merch that we were given by Riot. I think that went through. I can't be exactly certain if that went through, but stuff like that we do like to obviously give back to the community as much as we can in the best capacity.
Yeah, so like to sort of contextualize a little bit as well with like Riot. So people may or may not know, but Riot essentially closed their OCE offices entirely in Sydney. So that was where the OPL at the time, the Pro League, was based, which was then purchased by ESL and turned into the LCO, which we love. Thanks ESL, good job. And that means that basically the presence of Riot in OCE has been reduced to, as far as I know, like 2 people who work kind of remotely and are attached to the North American office. So like, and up until recently, that was 1 person, as far as I know. I could be wrong here, but it was not a lot of people. So that means that like any support that Riot initially had for OCE, and a lot of that was kind of done through Lost Stardust, through like her connections. We were able to get so much done. And then when they pulled out of this region, a lot of the work has kind of fallen onto the admins of SumSoc to kind of really just be the community. There was no like community manager for OCE, so a lot of it's just been SumSoc. And like when you talked about, like you asked about what you get for like donating. So like obviously there's a Patreon, and that's how like community members can donate. But then like a lot of it has come out of the pockets of like just community admins. So like I donated to the prize pool for SumSoc, for SICK rather, like one of our tournaments. That came out of my pocket. Chums, myself, and one of our other admins are currently on the list of the Nitro boosters for the Discord server to make sure we get all those like cool stickers and banners and stuff. And like, we would love to not have to pay for this stuff if we could make it sustainable. But like, at the moment, we love this community. We love what it does. So it's worth the money.
Wonder if that sort of sponsorship was to happen, you might lose some of the grassroots enthusiasm that makes it what it is.
definitely always a concern, I think. Always a question of like, how do we retain that? I think like my solution personally would be that the sponsorship would be on around the Twitch stream and around like the tournaments, and then the community would be allowed to be like periphery to that, and continue to exist as its own thing. But that's just my take.
Well, I think that's more or less all of the questions that I've got on my list. Morg, if you've got any,
Yeah, I just got one more
any
question.
burning.
So you mentioned earlier that you actually have the staff section of Summoner Society on its own server, Discord server. Is there any reason on the split? Was it just more manageable, or you wanted a place that was sort of has a layer of separation?
I think it was the idea was for better management, because I think we have about 5-7 teams, so each team has about 10 channels sometimes, especially big teams like SPT. So managing all of that in already a big community event Discord.
SPT stand for? Sorry.
SumSoc Broadcasting.
Yeah. So,
Sorry.
like, looking at the server right now, even with just like the access level I have, which is I have roles for like general and like sick stuff, I can see like basically like 2 screens worth of scrolling through channels. And then the admin server is about the same. And that's again with just like access to 2 teams essentially, just the general team and the SPT team. So there's just a lot of channels that we use to coordinate behind the scenes that like it would just create a lot of clutter. So I think that's the only real thingy behind it.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Mean,
Do you have someone who has the owner perm, or is that like a generic account?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I think I mean Lost Stardust still has. I'm pretty sure she's still in the server. If she's still in the server, I don't think she's there anymore, actually. No,
I
she's
think
not
the
there.
ownership's been transferred officially
Yeah.
to the new owners, which would be Pora and what is her name? She's relatively new. I feel bad. Ranko, yeah.
Yep.
Nats, yeah.
So I think
so.
yeah, one of them should have it now, but
That's a lot of scrolling for them.
Yeah,
it's still a lot of scrolling. Oh my god, you don't understand.
Yeah, we have it all classed into like different groups and stuff, but even then, it's a lot.
Any discussion within SumSoc about using a different platform other than Discord for like you say, like that organizing your information more efficiently?
Yeah, there actually was. I don't know if you were around for this, Champs, but we were actually thinking about getting Slack, because that's what they use at like Riot and other like gaming communities, gaming companies that our like people in the team leadership team had worked with. So we were looking at that. It's like $100 per user or something. Or like I think maybe it's a bit less, but it's still like it was a big investment, so we decided not to do it. But right now, Discord is like everyone's got Discord, right? So
Yep.
may as well use it. Like even you can always tell when someone works in esports. Maybe you guys can attest to this because the server list is full. I had a moment when I was at my cash money job, the one I do day to day, where I opened up my Discord and a coworker looked at my server list and was like, "What is that?" Because I'm like 4-5 screens of scrolling, nearly at that limit, and like I don't know, Charms, you probably the same. Like, it's esports. Everything's on Discord.
Obviously.
Well, I think we've more or less run out of things to talk about that I can immediately think of, unless you guys have got any last-minute super shout-outs, rantings, or conspiracy theories that you want to share with with Australia in general.
Mr. Paulus?
I got nothing. I'm done.
All right. Yeah.
Alright.
I mean, I kind of want to shout out just like all of the good people at SumSoc, of course. Like, I actually I think rather than shouting out everyone, because I've mentioned a few names, I really just want to like highlight just how awesome Kesh is, our venerable leader who recently stepped down. Like, this all exists because of her. And obviously, like, there were some other team leaders who were involved. Maybe we can get some like photos to show on the on the stream, but or like post on somewhere. But like, yeah, like basically this all happened because Kesh had a vision and like had like, I guess, the will to make it happen. And she kind of hulked up and just dragged everyone with her, and now we're at a point where we have like this community, we run these tournaments, and like even just like on a personal level, like she's always been like amazing to deal with, and like while she's no longer like the CEO, I think like I have to give her like the biggest of shout outs for basically just being the person who made this all happen. Like, it's awesome, and like we're only here because of her.
I agree.
Excellent. Well, thank you very much. Well, I think that concludes our episode here for the community meta. I believe you can find us on Game On Aus. This is Twitch channel and our YouTube archive as well on the Game On Aus channel for there as well. We can be found on, I think there's a Twitter somewhere for that. And I'm of the understanding that we're coming to a as of yet undisclosed podcasting app at some point. Eventually. Eventually. So this has been the Community Meta. I'm Mighty. Been joined by Morg, who's always here because he does all the work, and we've been joined by Weapon, XPX, and Chamz from Summoners Society, which is Australia's largest grassroots esports organisation, and New Zealand, for League of Legends and more. So thank you very much for your time today, guys. It's been wonderful having you along, and thank you for letting us crack open your assorted brains and feasting on the knowledge within. I hope you have a great great evening, and thank you very much for your time. Catch you later, everybody. Bye!
See ya.
Wow, I hope you enjoyed that show. And if you want to make sure that you stay up to date with everything that Game On Aus has to offer here on YouTube, make sure you click the subscribe button. That's the best way